music to the noise, yeah, the mess we make. Machine Pun Kelly get caught in the fake. Facts and logic with a twist of chest. Strip it down to truth, yeah, forget the rest. You propose the lies right out of the park. Look beyond the shadows, dissect the dark. Sparks of laughter fire up the night, bringing clarity when they blur the fight. Cut through the chaos, yeah, the tangled lives. Fun Kelly with a set of clear eyes. Truths and jokes gonna rock this show. Step into light where the real facts glow. Step into
Hey guys, welcome everybody. Welcome to the Pun Show. Is everybody ready to step into the light where the real facts glow? Sorry. I know as AI goes, you know, like everybody has feelings on AI, but I feel like, hey, it's not a bad song. All right. So, you know, the Donald Trump in his very finite wisdom has decided that anybody that disagrees with him is either Antifa or an Antifa supporter. And basically, I think if you say there's probably no better way to say that you're a fascist than to say anybody that opposes me is a terrorist. But here we are. And so thanks a lot to Phil or Awkward for helping me gather this panel of guests. And okay, hang on. Oh, we got thanks to my panel of guests for coming on.
Yeah, thank you all. This is very exciting. I'm a big fan of everyone's work, and everyone is doing something a little different. Everyone is a little different politically as well. And my point in bringing this group together that is so diverse is for each person to speak their truth. And I think collectively, we all can agree we need to put an end to what is not a creep of fascism, but like, I don't know what, skyrocketing or fucking tunneling, tunneling into the earth. So yeah, no cursing, by the way.
So what we're gonna do, we're just gonna go in order on my screen, which you know may or may not be the same as your screen, but I'll just call everybody out. We'll just give everybody a few minutes to introduce themselves and you know, just say whatever you want about where you stand and why you're not a terrorist. So we'll start with Alan. Alan, have you ever carried out any terrorist attacks or anything?
No, not that I can recall. Yeah, okay. My name's Alan Elrod. I am the president and CEO of the Pulaski Institution, which is a little policy shop I started here in Arkansas that's focused on democracy and populism issues in heartland areas in the U.S. and abroad. And then I also am a contributing editor at Liberal Currents, which is where I do most of my writing, but I also do writing elsewhere at places like The Bulwark and MSNBC. And, you know, I think that these places are all important because they're part of the opposition. And obviously we have a president who does not think that there should be an opposition. I think that's the thrust of what's being said and done, is that there is no such thing as a legitimate opposition, right? Because Antifa is a nebulous thing. So if Antifa is anybody who disagrees with him, and anyone who is Antifa is a terrorist, then you just can't have an opposition. And I think that's the world they want. And I think we have to just not give that to them.
I think that's really important. That, you know, like sometimes we're like, oh, Antifa is just being anti-fascist. It just means you oppose fascism. It's just an ideology, and all of that's true. But they want to say, oh, it's a collection of organizations without naming what those organizations are. And so, and those who support them. So it's basically give money to George Soros or something, you're a terrorist now. And it's like, it's so nebulous, so vague that they can just declare anybody a terrorist. And we see how they treat people they call terrorists.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's the goal, is for something that has not that much content, so you can just fill it with whatever you want. And what they want is for it to mean anybody that they don't like. I don't know if we're going around more. I don't want to hold court before I get through with introductions.
Yeah, quit holding court.
We'll just go to Randy.
Good afternoon. My name's Randy Bryce. I'm currently a congressional candidate running against Brian Stile in Wisconsin's 1st District. I'm a longtime labor advocate. Back in 2011, after Scott Walker was elected, helped organize one of the first protests against him. And since that time, I've been involved, arrested twice for protesting. Several protests. We used to chase Paul Ryan all over the district when he would try to pop his head out of his little hole. And all of that peacefully done. And everybody knew when I was a spokesperson for a group that was protesting, we were there peacefully. And the only organized group I was ever in that was to save people from fascism was the U.S. Army. And my grandfather was a member of that organization, as well as my father. And to say that, to threaten to arrest people for claiming that you're standing up against fascism, that's fascism. That's.
I don't know how much more of a confession you can have that you're a fascist, that you oppose anybody that's against fascism.
No, and they've included the Democratic Party too, of which I am a member. That, what more does it say? We're just here to take the opposition out than that. And he's already got 2028 hats made up. So take that for what it's worth.
Insane. Okay, so let's go to Scott. How you doing, Scott?
Hey there. Good morning, afternoon. My name is Scott Campbell. I am an anarchist and radical writer, translator, educator, father, parent, partner, located on unceded occupied Tongva land in so-called Southern California. And I have, I don't know. I mean, I've been involved in anti-fascist organizing and work for a long time. I'm affiliated with I collaborate with a anarchist website called It's Going Down that works for organizing and mobilizing and offering anti-fascist critiques. I do most of the covering of Mexico and translations from social movements in Mexico. And I think my thinking around this time in this moment is I think it's important to step back and see this sort of decrees and executive orders as part of a bigger puzzle that started since even before he came into office. It's started with a crackdown on Palestinian solidarity organizations and individuals. Start with the deployment of brown shirt kidnappers, taking people off the streets. And this is just another piece of the puzzle. I think it's they're playing from a playbook that's old, that's recognizable. Carl Schmitt said, if you tell me who your enemy is, I'll tell you who you are. And that was his basis of politics. And that politics from the Nazi era is being replicated here in the United States with these same types of ideologies of saying, create an enemy, create mass fervor around it, and let the chips fall where they may.
So I have a question for you, Scott. You're an anarchist. I see a lot of people on the right kind of conflate anarchist, far left, Marxist, and Democrat and socialist, all of that together. How do you respond? I always think, if you told most anarchists they're a Democrat, they'd be insulted by that. Is that true, or?
I think Eric just answered for me. Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, especially a member of the Democratic Party. Yeah. If we're anarchists, don't believe in political party-oriented politics. We don't believe in hierarchical forms of organization. We don't believe in illegitimate authority. We don't believe in representative democracy. We don't believe in liberal democracy. We don't believe in the state. We don't believe in capitalism. And I think there are definitely important differences between Marxist, communist, socialist, what kind of adjectives you throw into your anarchist mix. But I don't think the far right or the right, if there's a distinction between the two, is interested in a good faith discussion of the nuances of my political ideology. So I don't think it's really worth it to try and get into it with them.
I think most of them are either you're MAGA or you're not MAGA, and everybody that's not MAGA might as well be an anarchist or whatever. They're.
Oh, that's what they think. Okay.
Yeah, yeah, not what you think, but what MAGA thinks.
Oh, yeah.
All right, who's next?
We'll go to Alex.
On task here.
Alex looks like a fun person to hang out. I can just tell already.
My dude is so fun. You have no idea.
My name is Alex Mingus. I am a native and resident of Minneapolis, Minnesota, here on Lakota, Dakota, and Anishinaabe territory. I am an anti-capitalist, anti-police, anti-fascist father, grandfather, and I work in an elementary school around a lot of white kids with liberal parents. I gained some recognition after I saved a man's life a couple years ago here in our sister city of St. Paul. And in doing so, I received an award from the St. Paul police. And I don't like them. So I made a statement when I received my award, and it went viral online, and a lot of people sort of resonated with it. And that, like I said before, it's not the first time I saved somebody's life. It's not the first time I helped somebody who had been shot, and I don't do it to get cakes and cookie. And if I'm going to be screaming "fuck the police," I should have some sort of skills in my bag to be able to step up for my community. And I'm outside, y'all, right in the plains shit. I'm on lunch break, so just bear with me. I appreciate y'all having me.
Thanks for coming on. I'm a U of M alum, by the way, Alex. Former resident of Dinkytown.
Yes, sir. You know what it is.
They tore down that 2-story McDonald's, though.
Yeah, now it's a McDonald's on the first floor of a nice big student housing.
Yeah, that was kind of cool. Like, I never, that 2-story McDonald's was kind of.
Oh, it was very cool. The only time I had ever seen one before was in Chicago and in DC. But forget
dope.
I haven't had McDonald's in over 2 years, so forget them.
That's a good idea. I just gave up on fast food entirely. EK, how you doing there? EK?
Oh, sorry, my volume went fucked up, so my bad. My name is Eric. You asked other bro if he'd ever been in prison or done any terrorism acts. I have. I did 10 years in federal prison for bombing a congressman's office. When the Ferguson uprising happened, I stood with the black liberation groups out there. I was recently released from ADX, the federal supermax, where El Chapo's at. I'm an author. I got my book coming out soon.
Oh, cool.
I'm a paralegal and just a ardent abolitionist, doing everything I can to try to keep people out of prison, whether they're political prisoners or social prisoners. I've been an anarchist my entire life. I stand by it. No offense, Randy. Fuck the Democrats and Republicans. And I'm glad to be here. I'm glad to be fresh out and talk with y'all.
I can't remember the name of it, but there's a book where John Grisham co-wrote it with somebody else. And it's just about like all these cases that were people that were falsely convicted. And it goes into a lot of detail about just how messed up and easily manipulated our justice system is. So if you haven't read it, I'll find the title and let you know. But Like,
hey, EK,
Yo.
welcome home, brother. ADX ain't no joke. I'm a lot of people don't come home, or when they do, they are never the same. So welcome home.
Appreciate that, big dog. Respect.
Seconded, yes. I'm so glad.
so Dr. Michael Gold Wartofsky. Can we just call you Mike?
You can definitely call me Mike.
Xenophobe.
I don't know. I'm sorry if I butchered your name.
No, quite the contrary. That was perfect rendition. My name is Mike or Michael. I am a scholar of social movements and the politics of resistance. I'm also a practitioner. I have been researching the far right in various capacities for the past 10 years or more. And I have written a book about the Occupy movement. I'm writing a book about anti-fascist resistance right now. And looking at sort of field notes from the front lines that I've gathered over the past decade. So I am also a survivor of fascist violence. I was in Charlottesville in the path of the car that was driven by James Alex Fields Jr. So I am, happy to be able to be here in this context, still writing, still fighting, and still giving the fascists a hard time and the state a hard time. So. Here we are, and my analysis, I'm happy to get into it, but my analysis is that we're in a moment where the fascist movement has taken control of the state, and we have what is really an advanced form of state and techno-fascism that we're confronting today. We have to face the facts, but we also have to exercise our social and political imagination about what it would mean to really have a future without fascism. In a different world. So I'm just happy to be here.
I'm going to come back to you after we talk to Taylor, because I think this is a great segue into our next segment. But we'll go to Taylor first. They. How you doing, Taylor?
Hey, everyone. Glad to be here. I think for this conversation, the interesting perspective I can bring is through my distribute aid hat. So we run mutual aid supply chains at scale across Europe, got our start in the refugee solidarity movement out there, had to route full trucks of aid responding to the Moria refugee camp fire around fascist blockades and free time. We've since expanded, started shipping to the Levant region, Lebanon specifically in 2021, which led to us getting 3 containers of aid into Gaza last fall while the crossings were still open. And we are growing quickly in the United States right now, working on getting aid hubs paired up with local grassroots organizations, folks like Austin Mutual Aid, or Food for Life in Atlanta, in order to support disaster relief efforts. So that's kind of my lens, but I've seen some of this repression happen to aid workers, to journalists, to activists in some of these other countries. So we've had close relations with locally led frontline organizations. And so maybe can add some thoughts on where does this potentially lead, or what has worked well in other countries to push back against this sort of authoritarian overreach and kind of general branding of whole populations of people as the enemy.
Outstanding. So I want to go back to Mike now. And I have been told on Twitter many, many times, as I'm sure everyone has, that, oh, you just call anybody that you disagree with a fascist. So first I put together a slideshow video that talked about what fascism is and how Trump ticked off all the boxes, and I got accused of exaggerating. So I did another video that was longer, and I got accused of exaggerating again. And then last week I did 4 hours of podcast just itemizing and pointing to different examples of how Donald Trump, like there's different, like fascism doesn't have a uniform definition, but it more has certain tenets that are pillars of fascism. Can you explain what fascism is and why it's not hyperbolic to say that Trump and the Republican Party have become fascist? Like, why is it okay to say they're fascist, other than they just said anybody that's against fascism is against them, which is, like I said, a confession. But what is fascism, and how are the Republicans, and especially Donald Trump and Stephen Miller, just overt fascists?
Is it? I want to answer that question. Is it cool if we kick it back to Awkward for a second, just to
Sure.
to give Awkward a chance?
I'm sorry, Awkward's been on the show several times, but yeah.
Well, my man, this is a different question. So, thank you, Mike. I'm just so glad that I brought this group together. Just the way we're functioning in this like community right now is demonstrating to me what a like smart choice, like the smart choices that I made, and bringing you all on for this first episode of these panels that we're doing. I've been an activist my entire life. My mom taught me. I was a victim of fascist violence myself numerous times growing up, which turned me into a violent skinhead who beat up Nazis, rapists, racists, whatever, and then found hip hop music and activism, and that kind of helped me not end up dead or in prison. I co-founded the abolitionist organization 10 Demands. And in addition to being a rapper, I'm a sociologist. I still do organizing and political and nonprofit strategy. I'm a union member and a journalist. And obviously I do some live show bookings like this.
Is there a
Man of
difference
many
between
hats.
an abolitionist and an anarchist?
There are differences, but most anarchists are, I would venture to say most anarchists are abolitionists, and most abolitionists at least should be anarchists, and probably are, even if they don't realize it. At the very least, like socialists, because like as abolitionists, we're so community focused. We don't believe in borders. We don't believe in cages. So it's like same thing.
So
my man.
Do you have any comments on that?
What?
Scott, what do you think? Like, is there a difference between abolitionists and anarchists?
There is a difference. I did say that.
Eric, you want to answer?
Well, I mean, yeah. So abolitionists are just about tearing down prisons, and sometimes it becomes like a reformist stuff to where they want to tear down prisons to something better. But solid abolitionists want to remove hierarchical structures such as prisons. Anarchists want to remove them everywhere. So one is just to remove that structure of revenge, retribution. One is to remove every sort of structure that will make you commodify another human or object or a living thing. Pretentious.
Sounds good. And Scott, do you have any
I think Eric did great. I think that, their abolitionists aren't necessarily anarchists. There are lots of prominent abolitionists that are not. They obviously fall on the more, if we're dealing in a spectrum of politics, on the left side of things. But yeah, abolitionist has a deeply rooted history that's really important to look at. And I think the helpful lens it offers is to realize that the prison extends into society as a whole, right? It impacts societies, communities, peoples, families. It's a destructive force. We live in a carceral society, right? And there aren't just places where there are prisons. The prison is everywhere. And so the abolitionist solution must demand that the solution address everything.
Yes.
Which
the
gets into
abolitionists about abolishing prisons.
So hold on. Abolitionists believe significantly more. True abolitionists believe.
But hang on, Phil. What do abolitionists want to abolish? Is it prisons?
That's exactly what I'm trying to answer. So
okay.
I can tell you that obviously Angela Davis is a great example of someone who's become more liberal over time, at least, if not maybe always has been, and we just didn't realize. But She wrote an incredible book, Why Are Prisons Obsolete? And that was the beginning of my abolitionist journey. But it's certainly gone significantly beyond that. And true abolitionists, the entire purpose of it is to be anti-reformism. So if you're at all in favor of reforms that don't chip away at the system, you're not an abolitionist. So you shouldn't call yourself one. And abolitionists believe, there are people who think they're abolitionists because they're anti-death penalty, but abolitionists are anti-death penalty, anti-ICE, anti-police, anti-borders, anti-state, anti-cages, et cetera, et cetera. So unfortunately, Google took down the 10 Demands website, but anyone who wants an archived version can get it. It's 10forjustice.com.
They took down the website?
I'm sorry. Yeah, they did. And I'm so busy that I haven't been able to get it back up, and no one in the group wants to help me. So anyway, you can thankfully archive.org exists. You can look for it. It is important for me to know in concluding that it is way beyond our 10 demands. There are just hundreds of resources by people who know way more than I do, who've been doing the work longer than I do, and who don't look like I do. So it's important if you want to just access a huge library of resources to learn more about it as well.
Thanks, Phil. The only reason I wanted to bring that up is because I think that so many people on the right just think of the left as a monolith, that everybody that disagrees with them agrees with each other. And there are a whole lot of variances on the left, even within the Democratic Party, there are differences. And there are a lot of people to the left of the Democratic Party. And I just feel like one of the things we need to do as a society is start talking about policies and stop talking about parties, because there's a lot more than just a binary choice in virtually everything. But having said that, let's go back to Mike. And can you explain what fascism is and how Trump is a fascist? Or if you think he's a fascist.
I think there's the debate is over as to whether he's a fascist. The question is what to do about it. But the other question is kind of a open and closed case. But I turn to Robert O. Paxton, a great historian of fascist movements and fascist parties, who wrote that fascism may be defined as a form of political behavior marked by obsessive preoccupation with community decline, humiliation, or victimhood, in which a mass-based party of committed nationalist militants working in uneasy but effective collaboration with traditional elites abandons democratic liberties and pursues with redemptive violence and without ethical or legal restraints goals of internal cleansing and external expansion. So we're seeing that internal cleansing right now with the war on immigrants, with the war on the left, with the war on Black and brown folks and poor and working class folks. We're seeing external expansion with the threats against Venezuela, Iran, the ongoing genocide in Palestine. And we're seeing the collaboration right now between elites, one of which Donald Trump was one, elites who have traditionally eschewed or stayed away from open fascist politics to work together with, to work collaboratively with the fascist movement that has been wreaking havoc in our communities for some time, including well before Trump 1.0. So I think one of the things that we have to keep in mind is that there's a longer arc to this. The fascist movement has had its sights on this moment for about 50 years. And I think that there's a fascist undercurrent in this country that has been there for the entire time that there has been a carceral system. So I think we have to reckon with both state fascism and movement fascism, and distinguish between them, and also understand that the movement has now effectively won state power and is wielding it the way that fascist movements historically have.
There's this scene, sorry, this seems like a complete tangent, but there was this scene in Friends one time where Joey buys a sailboat, but he doesn't know how to sail. And so Rachel's teaching him how to sail. And, Joey being Joey is, like not that into it. And then Rachel like starts screaming at him and he says, I quit. And then Rachel says, you're a green and greens don't quit. And Joey says, I'm a Triviani and Triviani's quit. And then Rachel says, oh my God, I've been trying so hard to not be my mother. I've become my father. And it was just a great line, but I feel like it's a great metaphor because we have been trying so hard as a nation to not be so-called socialist or communist. We've become fascist. Like my entire adult life, my first political memory was wanting Carter to win when I was 10 years old, and Reagan like basically accusing him of being a communist. Dukakis was a communist. Clinton was a communist. Like all the political, all the Republicans have ever done with every single candidate ever has accused everybody of becoming a communist. So the Democratic Party actually, contrary to what Elon Musk says, keeps moving further and further to the right. And we've been trying so hard to not become communist, we've become fascist. That's my take.
But if I could just say one more thing, I think the Red Scare that we're seeing, or maybe the Rainbow Scare, if you want to call it that, because it's also targeting trans and queer people, and
yes,
and calling those folks terrorists. I think we're seeing expansion of the targets that fascists have historically targeted. So it's not just about communists anymore. It's not just about socialists, about anarchists. It's not just about Antifa per se. It's a war that has been launched against entire racial, religious, sexual, and gender minorities, as well as the working class majority.
So if anybody wants to go next, just
it's pretty amazing how, I mean, when I served in the Army, it was during the Cold War period, and I was sent to Honduras, Central America, when that whole thing with the Sandinistas and all that was going on. But it cracks me up to be called to be accused of being a communist. I'm also a union leader, and you have to sign a piece of paper that states you're not a member of the Communist Party in order to accept that position. It just floors me. They don't even know. It's just that they've been so ingrained to call us certain words, which are actually dog whistles for everything that they're against. And I served my time, and for anybody to call me a communist, that's quite a slap in the face, and it usually comes from somebody that never wore a uniform too.
You said you served your time. You were in the military, or
yes.
So, what branch?
I was in the Army.
Army.
As part of the Rapid Deployment Forces at Fort Bragg.
He was saying he went to Honduras.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I was typing in my brain.
No, it's all good. Just in case anyone else missed it.
Yeah, fine.
I was in the Air Force from 86 to 90.
Oh, yeah, I was 83 to 86.
So, Alan, what are your thoughts on that?
Okay. Well, look. So I'm I guess the squishy sort of, I'm a small L like liberal, right? I believe in, but the distinction to me that's important for all this is a society where this kind of vibrant debate and discussion happens is the kind of place America is supposed to be at its best, and they don't want that kind of world, right? What we're seeing is, a lot of the people who have complained, right, about free speech and censorship really use the state as a cudgel, right? I mean, the talk about things like labeling people communists and socialists, that's true that they've done that, but that feels, like at this point a little passé, right? Like they've really stepped it up, right? Pressuring companies to fire people, really encouraging the kind of cudgel of the state, doing things like leveraging funding against major universities like Columbia and Harvard. I mean, this is an astonishing ratcheting up of all of this stuff. And I think that that is a clear signal that they feel comfortable, right? That we're in an environment now where they can pursue, right, something more aggressive. And it hasn't been, right, since the Red Scare that we've seen quite this level. McCarthyism in the Red Scare 2.0, and obviously the Red Scare original one in the 20s. But we haven't seen this level, right, of government efforts to censor and silence critics and control expression in decades. It's very aggressive, and it's deeply concerning. And I think that goes back also to this idea of they don't believe in a legitimate opposition, right? It's not sufficient to the reason they don't want this distinction. The reason they would like to say that everyone, like from me, who the joke in the Liberal Currents Discord was that I was going to be here to present the neocon argument for anti-fascism, which is a little bit harsh. I'm not a neocon, but everyone from me to EK to left of EK to everybody down, right, is going to be all the same.
Mm-hmm.
And what they are people who want to destroy your world, destroy America, and do all these things. And the idea is to articulate a framework that legitimizes using state force against people. Mm-hmm. That's what it comes down to: censoring, and then ultimately jailing. This is how you justify sending troops into cities, and this is how you justify putting federal agents on the streets of Portland. This is how you do that.
Well, I think. Like I call myself a liberal institutionalist. Like I believe in the power of government, but I think the power of government should be used to help people and not hurt people. Like give people health care, give people lunches, give people, freedom, and to protect their freedom to marry and things like that. Like I believe in government. I'm not an anarchist. I believe that the government has a bona fide good. But it's like fire. It's a tool that you can either use for good or harm, and it should be used for good. So I call myself a liberal institutionalist, but it sounds like maybe that's more like where you're aligned.
But I don't think that I don't think that there's no place for people who care about the freedom and dignity of individuals and the rights of people to not be stripped of basic expression in public. There's always places for coalition and alliance there against what's happening, right?
I mean, also the liberals wouldn't be effective at all if the opposition weren't terrified of people like some of us, and that there's history behind that too. Like MLK wouldn't have been as successful if they weren't terrified of Malcolm X and the Black Panther Party, for instance. Alex Mingus, your turn.
I'm just curious then, like, what are we gonna do? It's a lot of intelligent people on here, a lot of people with a lot of different experience. A lot of us we've been seeing this coming, and I got about 20 minutes before I got to go back and deal with a first grader from Ecuador who has cerebral palsy. So what are we gonna do to stop this? What are we gonna do? You feel me? Let's talk about that.
Personally, I think the only thing that we can, right now we can't change the laws, but we can change the conversation. Mm-hmm. And that's what we need to do, is to keep speaking out like we are. Social media, even though, it looks like the right wing is taking that over and messing around with the algorithms, we still need to speak truth to justice. And
Alex, the community work you're doing is to me, the community work you're doing is to me the answer, because whether you're an anarchist or an abolitionist, or as it seems, a Democratic congressional candidate, you understand and are in favor of communities organizing, being self-sustaining, and then connecting with like-minded communities.
And I think that's the thing that people miss and people are so afraid of, is that if we can build parallel power, then a general strike doesn't seem as scary. If you know your neighbors, then you're not as likely to call the police if you feel uncomfortable in your neighborhood. For me, I live in South Minneapolis. I live blocks from the 3rd precinct. I live less than a mile from George Floyd Square. I've been at George Floyd Square when someone's life was taken. Like, I'm not a dude who just be on the computer or who like I'm really, and respect. I mean no disrespect in saying that, but like I really be out here, and I also teach, community defense trainings, and I think that's the thing is like we need to be pumping money into parallel systems. My man is helping feed people all over the world. He probably could do a lot more here in our country, but my man Randy and his people aren't able to help him out enough. So how do we get the government, if we're gonna have them? Excuse me, let's get them to do something. Cause my man, he needs all the resources he can to help feed all the people he can. I work at a school with a whole lot of kids who come from two parent households, 2 income households. They got a lot of regular life trauma. I'm chilling. So I'm doing my part in telling these kids on a daily basis why I wear a t-shirt like this, why I wear a Free Palestine t-shirt. Some of these kids ain't never heard of this stuff. And then when you show a 5th grader my videos and I'm sitting next to a kid whose daddy is MPD, oh man. So that's the piece. Building parallel systems, knowing your neighbors, learning defense tactics, whether it be on the interwebs or hand to hand or firearms, however you get down, knowing the people in your community so that we can, yeah, boom, like Phil said, I build a community here. Now I know all of these cats on here. So EK, whenever I come to California and I'm in Southern California, I know I can reach out to EK and it's safe. When I go up to Northern California, I know I can reach out to Dogtown Dro and it's safe. Like, this is the things we need to do so that a general strike is possible, so that we can shut this down and show them the power of the people that really exist. My bad, y'all. I love
My
it.
brother lives in North Minneapolis. Well, he
bad.
just moved, but he was living in North Minneapolis. He had a neighbor that was really rude and would have the music cranked up in these backyard parties all night long. And he has a son that's in junior high that needs to sleep at night, but he would never call the police on a noise complaint because he didn't want to get his neighbors murdered by the cops. Like that's the kind of thing you're talking
That's
about.
what you need. Yeah, everybody on my block, when we have a new neighbor. Look, I had one family that was neighbors of me and my mom and my family for like 12 years. They moved. We got a new neighbor in. Now, this new neighbor came after the uprising. So I went and hollered at him and I said, hey man, listen, around here, we don't really call the police. So if you feel like there's a need for the police, here's my phone number, bro. Unless there's somebody in your crib or whatever, if there's, you know what I mean? But if you feel like, oh man, that's kind of fishy, maybe I might call the police, call me first and let's see if we can work it out. And then you know what? His garage got broke into and he called me because he knew I had cannabis plants in my backyard and Minnesota wasn't up to the times yet, so it was still illegal. So he called me and asked how he should proceed. I said, bro, if there's no violence to be had, MPD don't want to come. You can fill out that complaint online. Boom. That's just one way that we keep police out of our neighborhoods and negate what they even do. Because they're not fighting crime, they're responding to crime. It's a joke.
EK, go.
Yes. Before I get into my little rant, by the way, direct action. We can sabotage these dudes really quick. It is easily done. We've seen it done with enough pressure. We can make it a wide campaign and shut them down. But everything I'm hearing is really dope. And I would like to just throw in that all of this has already been happening. And we all speak from maybe not Alex, but we all speak from a place of privilege to say, like, where did this come from? Like, I can't believe it's happening to us. I can't believe the corporations are acquiescing. But they've been doing that. Like, when you're inside, I did 7.5 years in a box. I wasn't allowed phone calls. I wasn't allowed visits. Like, I went 7.5 years without seeing my kids. That's fascist repression. They jacked our speech. All these rights we're supposed to have. You have the right to mail. You have the right to free speech and to protest. No, you don't. And we've never had it. It's always been a warning that we'll let you have this amount. We'll let you have this amount, but anything after that, we're messing you up. And so when people talk about rights, what I hear is like, I am forfeiting my dignity to this state and letting them determine my value and how much I'm allowed to do in my own place. Slave labor exists in prisons. These corporations make hundreds of millions off of having prisoners do free labor, off of selling contracts, off of selling food, clothes, bedding, soap, hygiene, jacking up them prices. I make $15 a month tops. I'm paying $7 for a deodorant. That's a markup. I'm paying $3.50 for a phone call. Who allowed Securus to charge that? The FCC. Who controls the FCC? The government. This whole racket's been happening, but now that it's stepping out of the repressed world into the modern world, we're opening our eyes and caring. And this, I guess, is the abolitionist perspectives that we've done seen this. We saw when they put the Muslims in Guantanamo. That's not different than Alligator Alcatraz, but we didn't care because they're terrorists. Now we're terrorists. Now immigrants are terrorists, so now we care. But this already happened. I was in prison with cats that were in Guantanamo. Those dudes were never charged with a crime. They were there for 10, 15 years. Not one crime were they charged with. So this is happening. They already practiced on the foreign cats. Now they're bringing it home. And when we're done caring about the brown people, it's going to come home to the white people. And then we'll care even more and want to do something more about it. But it cannot be, as Big Alex said, it cannot be the jammer. It has got to be the action, whether it's community aid, mutual aid, direct action, sabotage, solidarity in some way. Like, we don't have an underground railroad system for migrants yet. Like, we're watching ICE snatch these cats up. We don't know where they're going. We don't know what's happening to them, but I don't see anyone shuffling them into their homes. Everyone's taking videos. Here's my camera. I'll put it online, as if we have a moral high ground. They don't care about videos. That's their propaganda. But we could be hustling those people into our homes, hustling those people in our cars to skate them away, hustling them with money to get them somewhere else. But we're not doing the hard work. We're doing the easy work. We're doing the easy stuff because it's more digestible to our sensibilities and it doesn't put our lives at risk. But if we're not willing to risk this, we're not doing anything. We're chatting. We might as well be staying on a corner with a picket sign, which is what these liberals do. No offense, Randy. So if we're not doing the hard thing,
you know what I be telling these young boys who think they want to be out here in the streets and that, bro, if you're not ready to go to prison or die for what you're doing, you shouldn't do it. I'm ready for both and no longer afraid of either. So, you know what I mean? Let's get it popping. But I'm a grandpa, bro. We need other people to be doing this. Like, younger cats can learn from us and I like the way you talk.
Yeah, man, show up. People just need to show up. Put your privilege on the line for 1 second and gosh darn help someone else. You're not more valuable than they are. Our lives aren't more valuable than the poorest immigrant from El Salvador or Honduras or Mexico. We're not better than them. Our lives aren't up here. There's no one above us and no one below us. And so we need to put our lives on the line like they are by going to gosh darn work, going to Home Depot. Taylor
wanted to say something. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, no, just love what you're talking about there, Eric, and want to build on that, maybe with some positive examples, but you're totally right. Like, there's a lot of people in and outside of the United States who have been facing much more severe levels of community repression for a long time. You can almost certainly draw a through line between U.S. policy in Iraq and Afghanistan, the military-age males classifying, a whole bunch of teenagers, essentially, teenage farmers in the desert, as an enemy combatant so that we could justify blowing them up with a drone strike, through to, for example, what Russia's doing in Ukraine, demonizing the Ukrainian population as Nazis, and then using that as justification to target civilian infrastructure, aid warehouses, things like that, through to the genocide in Gaza that's being perpetrated with U.S. manufactured technology and U.S. made weapons. So I think that, it's maybe a good time for Americans to get out of our heads, out of our personal narrative, stop looking at how this affects us, and be building community with the people that are already dealing with the impacts of this sort of widespread repression, whether that's queer and trans folks and women when it comes to bodily autonomy in the U.S., whether that's Black and Indigenous communities that have always faced more scrutiny from the state and more repression from the state, whether that's refugees in this country who are the best example of survivors that I think I can think of. And that's what we need to do. You need to survive fascism to build a better world afterwards. And we really are all in this together. So put that newfound solidarity, that, some of those feelings of anger and fear, into action, link up with the existing groups. None of this work is new. I think we can talk about what should be done and how to do it and look at that in the current moment, but getting involved with mutual aid, getting involved with your local bail fund, writing letters to prisoners, connecting with communities that, have been dealing with this and learning from their experience because they're still here with us today. And then using that to guide your actions and choices, and thinking about, what is the role, what is the lane that I can have a big impact in, but also how does that fit in with a larger community of people taking different actions, using different tactics to help us get through and build the underpinnings for a better society, not to return to normal, but to break through and come out free together.
Anarchists are so cool.
I wanted to, if I could bring this up, the way Trump is using the military and the National Guard. My feeling is he's doing this just so we get used to seeing U.S. military policing the streets. It's not about any actual events. It's about future events, so that we have become accustomed to it. We become comfortable with it. And then it's just like, oh, they're just enforcing crime. And, they are actually committing crimes by so-called enforcing crime. But, is this just a further step to the right? Is this another step towards fascism? Whoever wants to respond to that, go.
Let me just jump in with one quick international example, if that's okay. The southeastern Ukraine, right? Russia invaded in 2014, kind of using some pretenses in order to say that, Russian descendant people were being oppressed and they had to protect them. And Obama and kind of countries across the Western world really normalized that, right? We let Russia we conceded to rising fascism and authoritarianism, and that led to Russia's expansionist war in Ukraine 8 years later here. So I think there is this slower process of normalization that comes with these tactics. But in the meantime, and the way to fight that is by supporting the people who are feeling the effects of that the most today, right? That's how we get ready for what is being normalized. But there's absolutely that component when we look at these events.
So, Mike, you had something to say?
Yeah, just real quick. What I experienced in Charlottesville, what EK experienced in Ferguson, those things have been, this kind of terror, this kind of state terror has been happening to poor and working class communities of color for generations. And I think we're waking up to something that that was very much already present in people's lives. We just weren't conscious of it in the same way in the so-called mainstream. And I think one of the things that I realized was, it did take the death of a young white woman in Seville, for example, for people to start paying attention to the fascist movement and its actual threat to people's lives. It took, the death of several people like Michael Reinl in 2020, who was assassinated by the U.S. government, to wake some people up to the fact that they were also coming for white people now. So I think there is those steps have already been taken towards fascism. The troops in the streets, the tanks rolling down the avenues, the predator drones in the skies, all of those things were tested out on Black and brown people, both at home and abroad, before this.
I just noticed this juxtaposition while you were talking, like the death of Father Heyer versus the death of that Ukrainian woman on the bus or whatever, where the black man killed her, and the way that the right responded to both. One was, oh well, this was just one person or whatever, and then they tried to make just a like the whole black men are scary to white women trope. Like, what do they call it? A black thug trope or whatever? Like, it just seems if a white person kills a white woman, then it's just an anomaly. But if a black person kills a white woman, then it's symbolic of all black people and basically everybody on the left.
And to clarify in 5 seconds, it's exactly the opposite. People kill, rape, rob the people that they know, the people around them. And thus, based on the segregation, Black people tend to kill Black people, white people tend to kill white people. That's just the way it is.
Well, let's look at who are the, you know, since we're talking about being anti-fascist and having violent happenings taking place across the country, look at who's actually doing the majority of the terrorist actions. It's white men. So, I mean, when we're talking about who to be afraid of when you go outside, that's got me concerned. When you see a guy with, you know, the 3 on his shirt, and you know that he took an oath to protect the government from taking over people, don't tread on me. Where is he standing with? He's standing with the government that's oppressing people.
Hey, let me tell you, a lot of those symbols to me is an open threat on my life, and I should be able to act accordingly. Now, I know I can't set that precedent, but man, listen, those are violent symbols of hate that to me, I equate like having a pistol. And in America, go ahead.
Hegseth tattoos.
Yeah, absolutely. And how come America America never sees white men as threats? Never. And it's all like the majority of things outside of the DC sniper that really shook us. Outside of that, the majority of these things are perpetrated by white men, whether they're trans or not.
EK, you've been sitting on something.
I mean, we've kind of passed it by now. And
don't worry.
By the way, I hope that the left movement removes this pacifism, this victimization thing that we do, where we show up at protests and just let ourselves get beat up for the optics, as opposed to like actually doing tactics that might help us stop these machines. This standing in front, don't hurt us, as they just get battered by ICE like a bunch of idiots. Go out there and like learn to fight to win. Gosh darn. But so I saw that thug mess when Michael Brown was murdered. That happened three hours down the road from me, and this is an 18-year-old child. And the media did everything possible. They pulled up like fights from elementary school. They showed him walking into a gas station with a pack of cigarettes. Like, look at this thug, this animal. He deserved to be killed. And people bought it. Prisoners inside prison bought it. They're like, yeah, those cops should have killed him. These bootlickers. So I've seen this stuff. I got called a race traitor for going down there to helping against this liberation movement because it was a black movement. As opposed to, I mean, it was a black movement, but opposed to a black movement standing up against a tyrannical government. Because white America has a very hard time empathizing with people that we don't see ourselves as. We're not trans.
Black liberation means liberation for everybody.
Yeah. Same with trans liberation. Same with Palestinian liberation. And so when we isolate ourselves, be like, well, they're kind of weird, or they're kind of complaining, or natives, they have it so good. They got the casino money. Quit crying. We always do this stuff as opposed to how can I uplift these communities? How can I be an ally? What can I do to serve these communities with my privilege? And I've been on the back end of that barrel with it, and I'm still not doing enough. But we need to really snap out of this. I keep stressing that being victims, like victimizing ourselves, like we're liberals, they're after us. Well, man, that's a white privilege perspective. Like, of course they're after us. Like, who else? They've gone after everyone else. So we need to do more. We need to do more instead of like just standing there getting beat up so that we can have the optics. And I've got ideas, but I'm not saying them on here. But we need to do more.
I think like if you look at what happened in South Korea, I've mentioned this a few times on the program, is there were a diverse group of people. It wasn't everybody agreed with each other on everything, other than this guy cannot just step in and take over the country. We're not going to be for a dictator. And so like all kinds of different groups, different ideologies, different perspectives came together and effectuated change almost overnight. And I feel like, there's sometimes, we on the left, and by left, I mean everyone that disagrees with Trump, from Joe Walsh to, Phil, or Alex or whatever, or EK, like everybody is like disagreeing with Trump. And I think we can all agree that the country would be better off if Trump was not running things, you know? And I just feel like, you know, sometimes we get so busy infighting that we forget to fight.
Yeah.
I was going to say, this is why I have a very hard time with liberals. And I'm not talking about Democrats, but I'm talking about real deal liberals who do everything possible to make sure that the right's not offended. Everything possible to take the moral high ground to we have to find a middle area and reach across the aisle. But we're reaching across the aisle with people with brown shirts. Like they don't care.
If you compromise with a fascist, you're just part fascist.
And that's what, like, we see Hakeem Jeffries today in the White House. Trump's got the 2028 hats everywhere, and they're laughing and smiling. Like, dude, this guy's threatening our entire country's lives. And you're gonna let's shake on it. Let's be friends. Let's just find the common ground. Like you're forfeiting freedom and dignity, dude. I hate liberals.
So we're at an hour, and you know, usually, like I always say, you know, the show is scheduled for an hour, and I'm always happy to go past that. If you need to bounce, like a few of us, like half people have bounced. If you need to go somewhere and want to bow out gracefully, now's your chance. If you want to stick around, then we can stick around.
Yeah, I have a little bit more time.
As long as the camera is rolling, I'm staying. My ego needs to be satisfied.
So, Mike, you have what are your thoughts on the whole conversation so far? What, you know, like nothing specific, but you've been sitting there thinking.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a tension, obviously, between what we are doing and, you know, what we need to be doing, and you know, we're not doing what we need to be doing. I think we can all agree on that. There's not enough being done to stop this, and that's why it's continuing to go in the direction that it's going. I think one of the things that comes up for me is like the need for a united front against fascism that makes space for people to fight in different ways, diversity of tactics, but like a unity of a goal. And I think that goal has to be raising the social costs, raising the political costs, making it expensive for fascists to continue doing what they're doing, and for the state to continue doing what it's doing. And I think there are ways to do that, some of which we can talk about publicly, some of which we can't. But there is always an underground and above ground component to this. And I think we have to have a capacious movement of movements that makes space for people to fight in different ways.
There have definitely always historically been underground movements to defeat fascism, right?
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
And so Randy, since you are the Democratic congressional candidate, I'm going to ask you a question that you probably are not prepared for, but I'm going to ask it to you anyway.
Okay.
You were in charge of the Democratic Party. What would you be doing right now with the whole government shutdown and everything?
Oh, I mean, first of all, we wouldn't be afraid to have town halls, because the policies in place are actually helping working people instead of taking things away from them, and redistributing our wealth to the top is what's going on right now. And when I say I'm running as a Democrat, I'm proud. I mean, I come from the labor movement, and then I saw how getting involved with politics helps us create jobs in the building trades. You have to go to the city council meetings, speak up as a member. That's what we need more of right now too. So it'd be having town halls, educating people as to what's going on right now, because a lot of people in the district that I live in right now aren't aware of all the garbage that's going on and what our representative is actively doing. So when I first got started with the labor movement, the minority leader at the time, he said, "Randy, you should run for office." So I did. I just, without thinking anything of it, I learned the hard way what was involved with running for office as not belonging to any political party. So I looked at, the Democrats always supported unions, and that's where I decided to go. So I met with them and learned a lot, and they have the infrastructure that's needed. I mean, right now if you look at the Republican Party, Donald Trump was able to join it and change it from within. That's why I don't think a third party is going to be able to come in and You've got, I mean, our email list is over 250,000 strong, and you're not going to be able to change things just by being on social media. That's why I'm running for office, is to make change. You know, millions of people are going to lose their health care. It's going to affect my mom. It's going to affect me. It's going to affect all the people I see out protesting. I'd rather have them. And when I get elected, I want to do things that help everybody, not just those who elected me, who voted for me, but you got to show you have the whole district. And right now that's not happening. The half that didn't vote for Trump is being seen as the enemy. And by being out in the community, not being afraid of them, because I'm not going to be afraid of any policies that I signed for, I think not only do the representatives need to be out in public, they need to be getting on the air as much as possible, and we need to see information from them, mailers, anything, just letting us know how horrible the government is right now. And when I say running as a Democrat, I'm the kind of Democrat that after I ran in 2018 against Paul Ryan and we chased him away, I went on to be a national surrogate for Bernie Sanders, just because I got to be very close with him, and his policies line up more along the lines of where I want to be. And that's where I come from. And we need leadership that's going to stand up. I mean, you look at the pressers in DC right now, when you see Hakeem Jeffries up there, you see a full contingent of Democrats. They didn't get sent home. But on the other side, there's only a handful, because Speaker Johnson decided, go home. We're not going to finish this anyways. So there's not even a chance to compromise right now if they wanted to.
Did you ever think that if Daryl Issa married Mike Johnson, their name would be Issa Johnson?
That would be a good middle name, because then you could have like a first name, like a Robert Issa Johnson. But no,
that's why they call me MPK.
I've got to meet several members of Congress who I lean towards the progressive lane, and those are the ones I want to work with. I mean, it's good policies, and I'm anti-corporate. I'm not taking any money from any corporate PACs, fossil fuels, Wall Street, and I added billionaires this time too, because I just don't think it's right. I think every billionaire is a policy failure.
EK, looks like you've got something to say there. So,
yeah. So two things. One, I think Randy, like one of the things they said is really valuable in the context of, I think we've seceded space. I think we've removed ourselves from certain spaces and let the fascists just come in and dictate it. Like even like the town halls, the school superintendent stuff, even small things,
campuses, gave them, just handed them to Charlie Kirk.
Take it. There's no, we don't have a presence. And so I think that is a valuable thing that they're talking about. Something that I did, I did a civil liberties law firm, and they did legislation. Like we passed the Trans Bill of Rights in Denver or in Colorado. And so that is working within the system to protect people, which I think can be very valuable. Like the stuff Randy's saying is very valuable. But I also think that if that's where it ends, then we're once again seceding space to those with power. Those who control these parties, the people passing the legislation, they are now going to do what's in their best interest. And I'm obviously not speaking for Randy, but I've watched these politicians, at least in Colorado, I watch how easily they will turn so that they don't lose funding. How quickly they'll be like, I support trans rights, except for, because they get that Christian money, they get all this other stuff. And that's why I think people power has to come first. It has to come from us. We have to put that hard press. If we're going to have politicians, then we have to control them. They have to know that we will take you out of there the second you start forfeiting our rights to corporate rights. And we don't do that. We don't take space, and we don't have control over our leaders. And that, I think that's a losing combination.
I agree. And also another thing that I've learned since being a labor advocate and standing up against Scott Walker and all of the anti-worker policies in Wisconsin is that I learned that you need to build coalitions. So like coming up, there was a group, Voces de la Frontera, the leading immigrants' rights group in Wisconsin. They came to the union, asked for help, for support. I talked our executive board into helping them. And then I marched in the parades with them. and watching them have, high school aged girls on stage in front of a crowd of hundreds that get up there and they say, I'm undocumented and I'm unafraid. That's real courage to me. They could be snatched up at it. They're not saying it now, but they had that strength. And I recently saw where they teamed up with it's an African-American, like, to help get out the vote group. Mm-hmm. So is Black and Brown marching together. We need more of that, to see people. When you see more people, diverse people standing together for different reasons, that's strength. And if you can let people know that all these people are standing together, that's going to give more encouragement and give courage to people to stand up with you.
I love what you're saying. Like, I hear so many people, like, there's a lot of complaining, and fairly so, about Chuck Schumer or whatever, and not controlling the narrative or not messaging or whatever, but the message needs to come from the ground up. Mm-hmm. If you have 20-30 million people marching on October 18th, that's a message that cannot be ignored, not even by Fox News. Like, we need to become too big to jail. Is what I've been saying. Mm-hmm. Like, enough people that, even with all their anti-fascist rhetoric and whatnot, like, if there's just a point where they can't just ignore us anymore. And we need to stop looking to the Democratic leadership to be our voice, and we need to voice what we are until they can't ignore us anymore. We need to be loud enough, we need to be big enough, and we need to be strong enough that we are impossible to ignore anymore. Mm-hmm. So, Mike, what do you think?
I'm with you. I also think we have to be disruptive enough.
Bingo.
I think that's one of the things that's missing from the present picture. Is there were some of the most massive protests in history. In June, and we still are in the situation we're in. There were some of the most massive protests in history against the Iraq War. George W. Bush still went into Iraq. Some of the most massive protests in history, again, against Trump in 2016, 2017, and then again in 2020. And, here we are. So I think that's one of the things that I would just add as not a substitute for mass action, but as something that enhances the potential that mass action brings with it. Is that disruption, that kind of causing trouble for the powers that be, for business as usual to stop for a day or to stop for a week. And
so what kind of action can people take that's legal?
A strike, for example. Just to give one example, a general strike,
like a 1-day strike or a 2-day general strike, or a week or a month or
strike
until.
Yeah, until something different. Until something changes.
Stop capital. As soon as you stop capital, that's who controls this government. When you hurt them, like, look what happened with Jimmy Kimmel. Like, I don't give two F's about that stuff, but look what happened. Enough people cut that money line. Disney said, come on back. We're sorry. Capital is like disrupting capital. I'm going to give a prison example unless you cut me off, MPK. The nice dudes in prison, like the soft dudes that are trying, like, we want this. They get steamrolled. You will not get help from this administration. They don't care if you're writing petitions. But when you set up barricades, when you start lighting them fires, when you make them come and do their work, then they're like, all right, what do we have to do to stop this? What will it take? You need more radios? Fine. You want better sheets? Okay. So you suffer short-term pain for long-term gain. I'll take this hurt because it's going to change the future. That's what the Black Liberation Cats did. We will take these beatings on the streets because soon we will have it. And so, like what bro just said about the strikes, we can do the sit-ins, we can do the disruptions, we can do the boycotts, things that hurt capital. We can disrupt their daily lives to such an extent that it's no longer manageable for them to continue doing this. And when it's not profitable, it's not worth doing for them. And that's how I agree with Dr. Mike. Like, dude's got it. Disrupt them where it hurts them. And the only place they care is their wallets.
And yeah, I learned in union organizing, you always follow the money.
Yeah.
If you want a company to, there's a contractor that is non-union, that's taking advantage of the workers, you look and see who's bankrolling them, and you make that an issue too. And you're like, look, this company is bankrolling This bank is bankrolling this company that's taking advantage of workers, whether, you know, not providing them water. There's always a lot of things going on wrong with non-union sites. But that's one of the first things you're taught: follow the money.
It was like in Jimmy Kimmel's return monologue. He said, I just have to read this one prepared statement. And then it was to restore your Hulu account. And that is exactly down the middle of what EK is talking about. Like, Disney turned because Disney got hurt.
Yep.
We've also seen it on the flip side. We saw Bud Light or whatever stop using trans representation because they got hit. We saw with Target where they tried pink washing and then had to like come back. We see it when people get disrupted financially in these corporations, and the corporations run the governments. So we hurt them, we hurt the government, try to force some change because we can't do the moral high ground stuff anymore because they don't have it. They don't have a moral low ground. So we can't say like, look how shameful you are. Look what you've done. They don't care. What they do care about is whether or not they're going to go home to that mansion and get those stock options.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
cut that off. Cut that train. Mike knows. Occupy. Talk about Occupy, Dr. Mike. Like, that's a great example.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I want you to go into it.
Unfortunately, I have to bounce, but I will say that there are precedents for this. You know, there are general strikes that have forced authoritarian regimes from power all around the world. We don't have to just look to the history of the United States. We can look around the world, and we can also look to the history of the United States in terms of you know, the first the Black Freedom Movement and other examples of disruptive tactics and strategies that really did implement change on a scale that we're still seeing it today. So I think one of the things that didn't change, of course, was the way that the government responds and represses social movements and people who fight back. And I think there also has to be a robust anti-repression movement in this country as well to support the people who are facing the consequences for taking action.
So I think we're kind of coming to a natural end of the conversation here. Just want to give each of you that are still here a chance to pitch anything you want to pitch. Dr. Mike, do you have any books you've written or any websites you want to pitch or anything like that?
So I have a letter newsletter that's thecriticalrealist.com. That's thecriticalrealists.com. I also have a book out on the Occupy movement called The Occupiers. And I have a forthcoming book called Resistance: Field Notes from the Front Lines, 2016 to the present.
And Randy, do you have a site people can go and donate to your campaign? Or?
Yes, absolutely. randybraceforcongress.com. We have a new video up there, and it lays out my whole platform. Criminal justice reform is a big part of it. Totally against all these private prisons that are for profit, and the only reason they stay open is because they keep making money off of people that we send to them. So,
if do you have a Blue Sky account?
I do. I
have a starter pack for candidates. If you send
I sent you a DM.
Okay, great.
So
I'll add you to the starter account and blast that out.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
And EK, anything you want to pitch?
Do I? My book's coming out soon on PM Press. It's called A Clean Hell. There's no other books about the federal supermax, oddly. Like, there's not a single other book about ADX. Like, it's this secret of prison. And so I had the privilege of being able to get out of there. So it's coming out soon on PM Press. You can pre-order it. I would also please encourage anyone watching or listening, write a prisoner. You can go to the NYC ABC website, Anarchist Black Cross. You can get a list of names, LA ABC. But please write someone inside who fought for liberation. There are people who have done this work and are still paying for it. And they need help always. They get forgotten. And the more that we can help them with commissary, phone calls, letters, books, the better we can be, because we can't have this resistance if we don't support the people who fought it for us.
Just because you're in prison doesn't mean you stop being a human being, you know?
I'd say it even makes you more of a human being because you're at the bottom of that boot.
I have a friend here that is a former felon, and you know, I've talked to him about some of the things, and it's not just about what happens to you while you're in prison, but after you get out, to reestablish yourself as a genuine, actual, honest person is almost impossible.
I still cry every day.
He his father died, and he didn't have money for his funeral, so I loaned him the money, and this grown man, and you know, like 6'5", 230, lean, was just in tears because he couldn't believe somebody would trust him to loan him, you know, a couple of $1,000s to pay for his dad's funeral. Like, it's sad.
Kindness is huge, dog.
So I just want to say thanks to everybody that joined and everybody that left. You've all just added unique and valuable insights, and really appreciate you coming on. And everybody that's watching, give these guys a follow, give them money, do whatever you can to support the cause. Appreciate it. Thanks, guys.
Bye, friends.
Thank you.